So, you guys like crows? On May the 9th, 2024, a new indie horror game would hit the stores. This game being Croc Country. I've been wanting to play this game for a long time, but due to me being honestly really bad at starting new games, it took a long while before I actually did. This game was developed by a studio called SFB Games, who had created several games before Croc Country. Now, I'm personally not really familiar with their catalog of games, with the exception being Snipper Clips. I played this one on the Switch. It's a pretty cute puzzle game. From what I can see, it seems like Croc Country is their first take on the horror genre, and I can definitely say now, they did a great job with this game. Visually distinct, creepy atmosphere, charming, and also having an interesting narrative. This game was rock solid from beginning to end. So, without wasting any more time, let's get into the game. Opening the game, we get a classic horror title screen. I really like the atmosphere this title brings, and the music too is so foreboding. The game opens up with our main protagonist Mara Force driving towards Croc Country. She's supposedly sent on a mission from the police department in order to find a man named Mr. Crow. Why exactly is a bit unknown. He was last spotted in his very own amusement park, Croc Country, that has been abandoned for 2 years. Now, the first time you walk into the park, you can definitely tell it's been abandoned, but strangely, the lights are still on, and same with the music. Someone must be still running this place. But it isn't long though until we find another person named Arthur, a photographer who wanted to take some photos of the park but got attacked by something. We luckily have a healing band and help Arthur to the car where he can chill and wait for us until we are done with our mission. You can also find this camera too that has been left behind, and the picture it took, it's hard to make out, but this is definitely something that was not human. Most likely the thing that attacked him. This game has done a really good job so far at setting the atmosphere. It really nails that abandoned park setting so well. You can see a lot of the attractions still intact and some not so much. It's definitely seen better days. But it is not long until we counter our first enemy being these humanoid zombies. The pistol we have does a decent job at killing them. Headshots do more damage and can stun them for a bit, so keep that in mind. But past the monsters, there is an office we can enter. I love how immediately the first time I went in here, I could tell it was a safe room due to the music. It's soothing and relaxing, just like save room themes in other horror games. You save by the fireplace and you could do it as much as you want. Now, the gameplay loop is pretty similar to older survival horror games like Resident Evil, where you're pretty much stuck in the same area throughout the whole game, but doing puzzles unlocks more and more rooms to progress through the story. It's like a 3D Metroidvania. You'll go back to previous areas when you get the tools to properly finish a puzzle and so on. Not only that, but you also have to deal with the monsters around the area. But you do have a limited amount of ammo in the game, so you should always consider if it's worth killing an enemy or just walk past it. You can find different weapons throughout the game. The first weapon you start with is the pistol. It's a pretty standard pistol like in other horror games. It does okay damage and it has a good range. But it is also very useful when opening up glass bottles or crates for resources. Now, the shotgun is a much stronger weapon. Enemies that take 6 to 8 shots with a gun only takes 2 shots with a shotgun. But bullets are a lot more scarce and the range is not as long as a pistol, but overall it's still a really great weapon. The flamethrower does really good damage. Every enemy you fight against goes down quickly, but ammo for the flamethrower is even more rare than for the shotgun. So you won't use it that much, but it's still a very solid weapon. You also have grenades you can find, and these do good damage. You can carry up to 5 at once, and they were really great at either taking out multiple small enemies or bigger enemies. And the last weapon to unlock is the Magnum, and this gun is insanely powerful. This is the strongest weapon in the game by far. It is long range too, but the ammo is incredibly scarce, so you use this gun only against the worst of the worst. But trust me, it is so worth using. Now, when it comes to these weapons, outside of the pistol you start with and the grenades lying around, these weapons are actually hidden in the game. You could very well play through the whole game just with a pistol. Now, combat won't be the only thing to do in this game, as puzzles also play a big part of the game. Now, I was a bit scared that the puzzles were going to end up being bad or nonsensical. I feel like horror games with puzzles are a mixed bag, where they can either be great or terrible. Thankfully, this game's puzzles are very solid. Some of them are simple, but several others are actually really solid brain teasers. One of my favorites in the game include one in the crypt. You get stuck in the crypt and can't leave until you solve the puzzles. There are 4 graves with names and dates of the person's death. and on the ground there's a compass showing the 4 different directions. I figured quickly that the first letter of the name is where the grave should be pointing to, but then you have the 2 people with a first and last name. And it took me a bit before I realized you had to point in the middle of the both first letters in both the first and last name. And the puzzle was solved, and it was such a cool puzzle. There was another puzzle I also really liked, where you have these pictures in the slideshow of all the different monsters in the game. All the monsters have a number on top of them. There's also a page on the side where you're given a hint on how to solve it. It actually took a while before I really understood how to properly solve it, and once I figured it out, I just felt like an absolute genius. It was a very solid puzzle. But speaking of genius, the soundtrack is just genius. I mentioned earlier how they nailed the old theme park aesthetic, but the music playing when you enter the park is like the most perfect theme park music ever. You have several tracks in the game that's also eerie, but also feel like something that could have been played in a park when people were walking around. But then there are the really atmospheric ones. The ones that really shine and make it a lot more unsettling walking around this place. I learned that the composer behind this game also worked on the music for the Henry Stickmin collection. The soundtrack did not disappoint, it was really great. Major props to Aykroyd for creating a very memorable soundtrack. I went long enough without really talking about its visuals, and it's really what made me so interested in the game in the first place. Now the art style was a bit hard to describe for me at first, but I realized what it reminded me of. It reminds me of those older stop motion shows like Noddy or Postman Pat. The game environments as well, just looking like playhouses for the dolls, but with a dark shade of paint and of course monsters. I do really love this game's visual style, and it never got boring to look at. I can't really think of any games that really look like this. The environments just looks excellent, and like I said earlier, works so well for a place like this. This theme park has different places to go, like the fairy tale part with mushrooms, swans and lakes. There's also a haunted place with gravestones, pumpkins and ghosts. And lastly, there's a sea world with water, sea creatures and a submarine. And inside this place there's also other locations you can visit. Like this arcade room where you can play some pretty cool games. Except for this claw machine one. This one is just fucking bullshit, dude. As Mara explores more of the places, she finds different people in here as well. I already mentioned Arthur the photographer from the beginning, but she also does meet a woman named Julie. Now Julie works as a lawyer and was sent to her by the parents of a girl who got into an accident in this park 2 years ago. Mr. Crow has completely ignored the laws against him, so she traveled here to talk to him. This accident that happened was when a 16-year-old girl got attacked by this weird guy called the Guest. This could be a reason why Mr. Crow is really hard to find. Most likely he's just hiding from this because he doesn't want to deal with his lawsuit. That is until a phone starts ringing and he starts talking to Mara, but only in small pieces as he hangs up after a short while. Multiple phones are around the park, and the more she listens to him, the more she learns about him and the park itself. First time we visit the arcade room, we also find a guy called Marvin, who was Mr. Crow's business partner. It's from him that we learn that both him and Mr. Crow have been doing some other business other than the park itself. Long ago, Mr. Crow's father found a weird green root that was unlike anything he had ever seen. Quickly, he found out that the roots had actual gold in them. This gold was almost 100% pure, worth a ton of money. After Mr. Crow's dad died, he gave the operation to his son so he could continue. But due to not wanting the government to get any ideas of this gold and possibly take it away from them, Marvin had a plan. He was going to open a gold mine in Brazil and act like the gold came from there. Now it did actually work at first, but after a while, the Brazilian government snooped around and realized he was faking it. So now he's hiding here because he's haunted by the Brazilian authorities and wants to speak to Mr. Crow so he can help him out of this situation. The one thing to note about this is that Mr. Crow didn't really want to do this gold thing. He was not interested in it, and by the end, he just stopped completely caring about it. Which is why he hasn't responded to any of Marvin's mails or any of Marvin's letters, because he just doesn't want to deal with it at all. Later on, we do also find another character called Natalie, this being Mr. Crow's daughter, and she is also here looking for a father. Now, she is the reason why we're here in the first place. Well, originally she did actually call someone else, but he didn't really show up, so that's why Mara came instead. It really does seem like everyone is out looking for Mr. Crow, but nobody can find him. But all his daughter wants is to talk to him. Most likely to make him just go home, because, you know, this park is abandoned. There's no point in being here anymore. When we first find her, she's puking and being really bad, but luckily we do have some healing items so we can also heal her. It does seem that she also got attacked by one of these creatures. Now, Tallman is interesting as he is one of the only workers still left here. Unlike the other characters, he's not looking for Mr. Crow, but instead wants to tell people to stay away from the park, as it is pretty dangerous. He's kind of mysterious and awkward when you first meet him, getting this feeling that he doesn't really want you there and just want to be left alone. And that is true, he just wants you to leave the park because it's gotten so dangerous. He's not a bad guy, he just doesn't want anyone to get hurt. And lastly, for now, we have James. Now, James is a police officer. He is actually the one that Mr. Crow's daughter actually called to get to this park. But like I said earlier, due to being late, Mara got called here instead. But he doesn't really seem to recognize her, and instead just tells her to just go home. Now, despite him trying to tell Mara to leave, so does Mara to him, but again, he doesn't really listen because he has a mission he wants to finish. The monster designs as well are really fantastic in this game. I mentioned earlier the humanoid zombie enemies, but there are also these small slimy puddle things that move very slowly and do a bit of damage. But later on, these bigger puddles appear and oh my god, their designs are so freaky. The arms and the eyes, dude, they just freak me out. They're also a lot faster and do poison damage, so that's fun. There are also these other puddle enemies with a flat face that also freaks me out. They kind of look like those pancakes from the Teletubby series. But then there are these metal looking goblins that once spot you, run super fast towards you. And yeah, they freak me out too. The last two common enemies you'll see are these tall, lanky white enemies that also freak me out and make this really uncomfortable sound. And lastly are these big, strong enemies that are slow, but they hit like a truck. But there is also bosses in this game, surprisingly. I was really not expecting that. And the funniest thing about them is that you can completely avoid them, but that is easier said than done. Killing them is just a better choice, to be honest. They're really cool and very creepy looking. Now, while I don't mind the bosses not being super hard, I really wish the game was more challenging. Throughout my entire playtime of this game, I died like twice, and that's me having played through it 3 times. I think the main issue is that the game gives you too much supplies, and the ammo is just not limited enough. You could kill every monster in the park and the bosses and still have more ammo. A part of why I really love limited supplies in survival horror is because you have to plan out which ammo to use against which enemy should you kill and which one should you just leave behind. But in this game, I didn't really get that feeling. I really think they could have hit a better balance between the supplies and how much you can hold at once. If they had made it so you can only hold so many weapons and ammo at once, that would have given the combat much more strategy. Like, oh, I should leave this flamethrower behind but take the shotgun, you know? It's not a huge issue as the game was a blast to play, but I really wish the game was more challenging. But now we are close to the end. The creepy crow statue at the beginning can be moved, and when doing so, Mara can use the hidden elevator. Using it, we enter a room filled with guests. You have to press 2 buttons on the side to open the door in front of you. But entering the door, we get a horrible surprise. James Harrison is dead. However, he was not killed by one of the guests, but instead shot. Whoever it was did not want to progress further. Getting past some gates with numbers, we are greeted by Tolman again. He tries to warn Mara not to go down, but she has gotten too far to give up now. And then Marvin shows up with a gun and points it at us. As he can't stand the thought of going back home and being arrested, he wants to kill Mara as she knows too much. If it wasn't obvious by now, Marvin was the one who killed James. But lucky for us, he gets pushed by Julie in the vents. The last time we saw her, she was helping us with a certain puzzle, but she got pushed into the vents. Mar tells the both of them to check on Natalie and Arthur and to wait for her in the parking lot. It's not long before this is all over. Walking past the gate that Tolman was guarding, there is a pool where you can heal. And across the room there is this long staircase down, and climbing it down we get this very beautiful track. Being at the bottom, we can find a room filled with stuff, but it's obvious that this is where Mr. Crow has been hiding all this time. You can find food laying around, a shower, and some weird green bottles of liquid. If you shower, you can actually see Mara's natural hair color, which was mentioned before by another character. On the side of the big metal door, you can also talk to Mr. Crow. He says before she can go in, she needs to take with the green liquid on the table, and doing so lets her go in. And inside, we can finally meet Mr. Crow face to face, just looking really different than expected. When talking to him, it's revealed that Mara doesn't work as a police officer, and her real name is Elaine, the same girl that got hit by the guest 2 years ago. After she had got bitten by the guest, the park was closed down. Not only that, but she had gotten an infection. But no matter how much time passed or how many doctors tried to help, nothing could get rid of it. So she hired the lawyer Julie to sue Mr. Crow. But due to infection, she also wanted to talk to Mr. Crow himself. Mr. Crow allowed this guest to still be in the park and did not do a good job keeping it away from visitors like Elaine. Despite being locked in a cell, she still managed to get bit by it. And as time passed on, more and more this guest appeared. Mr. Crow states that the first one that ever appeared in the park was very human-like, could even speak, this being the same one that hurt Elaine. But as more as these guests came, they became less and less human-like and more unrecognizable. These guests came from the roots with the gold, this green pool in front of us. Crow himself has also been affected, but so did multiple others. Natalie, Arthur, Tolman, Elaine, and Julie. But he had been working on a cure for the longest time, and there are 5 flasks of it. But wait, with Mr. Crow that would be 6, so who will not get the medicine? Mr. Crow himself says he will not be taking it as he knows it's done too much damage and doesn't deserve to live. He asks Elaine for one last favor, and that is if he emerges from the pool, Elaine must kill him, no matter what happens. This unfortunately will go against the wishes of his daughter, who told us earlier to not kill him, but like he says, if he emerges from the pool, then he is probably not human anymore. He gives Elaine a little note and he jumps into the pool. And then right after, he becomes a big monster. I love the design of the boss, and the arena you fight in is pretty cool. This fight also feels tragic. You can tell despite the bad decision that Mr. Crow has made, he is not a bad person, and want to try to make up for it in the end. But once he is beaten, he will start talking again, asking for her to kill him, and aiming at his head, he is dead. The last scene is of all the characters sitting by a car drinking the antidote. Elaine's last lines are uncertain. She is both relieved but also scared. And then credits. After the credits, you get a score based on how well you did. First time I beat it, I got C+, and that was really bad. I was like, god damn, I expected much better. The ranking is based on how many secrets you found, how many hints you used, and how many times you have healed. Now, this game does actually have more to it than meets the eye. The game has 15 secrets. Some of the secrets being the weapons you find, but other secrets also includes upgrades for them, like the laser sight for them. These mushroom guys will upgrade your weapon either by damage or by the distance it will hit an enemy, or just the ammo for Magnum. The Magnum is so powerful that the ammo for it is actually part of the secrets. But there is also another secret you can do that gets unlocked once beaten in game. Now 42 blue crows will have spawned around the park. Finding and destroying all of them let you get this pretty neat outfit and a laser gun with infinite ammo. But there is also more unlockables. The rank system I mentioned earlier lets you get some extra stuff that will help you when replaying the game. For getting a B rank, you get a crowbar, which is just insane clever. This one makes you able to destroy crates and vases without wasting any ammo, so this was pretty useful. Getting A rank lets you get the crow launcher, a grenade launcher that fires crow heads as bombs. And it also has infinite ammo. This was incredibly helpful, making all the counters a cakewalk. Just be careful not blow yourself up. And lastly, for getting an S rank, you get crow wings, letting you be able to teleport from one safe space to another. It's a pretty neat tool, but I really think it was really pointless as the last reward. Like, once I got in the S rank, I had done everything in the game. I don't need to do anything more, so. And with that, we covered everything of Crow Country. A very cute but creepy horror game that really nails what it sets out to do. This is definitely an easy game to recommend. Not only for its low price of $20, but also because even for non-horror fans, I think they would actually like it. And with that being said, I thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.